In this video I'm going to run through the fundamentals of Kant's philosophy. By the end of this video you will have a basic understanding of Kant's most famous ideas on the subject of morality. So what are his ideas? What did Kant say? Probably the most central aspect of Kant's philosophy is that people are not a means to an end, but an end in and of themselves. Put more simplistically, Kant is saying, don't use people. Kant believes that maxims, which are rules of moral conduct, should be universal. By universal, Kant means that the maxim should apply at all times. As we get further into Kant's philosophy, we will see that Kant's ideas are very strict and unwavering. It is therefore unsurprising that Kant rejects utilitarianism. Kant puts great emphasis on the rights of individuals and stresses personal autonomy, which is inconsistent with the application of utilitarianism. Furthermore, the idea of the unwavering nature of Kantian ethics is the idea that the right takes priority over the good. For example, it would be good to feed starving children, but if this involved stealing, then Kant would be opposed to it. The right thing, by Kant's system of ethics, is not to steal, and this takes precedence over the good act of feeding children. The books for which Kant is most famous are his three critiques, along with the Metaphysics of Morals. If you really want to understand Kant, then reading these books is advisable. However, these are by no means easy to read. Although Kant's philosophy is highly influential, some of his ideas are pretty bizarre. This is one of them. So now you've got a basic overview of Kant's ideas. Let's take a closer look at some of his ideas and reiterate some of the main points we've covered. Let's consider his first formulation, the formula of universal law. Simply put, this means that moral principles should be universal. This means that once you have derived a moral principle, it applies always. For example, something like never steal or never lie. As a means of deriving moral principles, Kant employs what he calls a universalability test. To perform a universalizability test, what you have to do is take a principle, apply it to absolutely everything, and see if there is a contradiction. The classic example is it is permissible to steal. The concept of stealing assumes the existence of property rights, so if we universalize the principle, we must reject all property rights. If you believe it is okay to steal, then you cannot support property rights. The universalizability test fails, and so does the idea of stealing being permissible as a moral principle. This idea is termed the categorical imperative. And if we take the categorical imperative and look at it in Kant's own words, he says, act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. So let's move on to Kant's second formulation, what he calls the formula of the end in itself. This principle follows logically from the categorical imperative. As alluded to in the introduction, it essentially means that you can't use people. It also gives people a great deal of dignity and autonomy. Again, Kant's principles clash with utilitarianism, because if people are never to be used as means to an end, it is not possible to use a minority for the benefits of a majority. And to summarize his second formulation, we'll look at what Kant wrote. Kant says, act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end. So, if you followed everything so far, it should come as no surprise that Kant prioritizes the right over the good. Notice, if you reverse this principle and stated that the good takes priority over the right, as is the case in utilitarianism, you would necessarily contradict the categorical imperative. It is also worth noting that Kant's philosophy is so stringent that doing the right thing is not even good enough. You have to do the right thing for the right reason. Consider a shopkeeper who won't cheat his customers because he worries that word would get out that he cheats his customers, and he will therefore lose business. Although he is doing the right thing by not cheating his customers, to Kant his actions have no moral worth. There are some more bizarre aspects to Kant's philosophy. As I said at the beginning, he's very opposed to masturbation. He argued that it was unnatural, that it degrades him below the beast, and that it is a violation of the duty to oneself. And I would also recommend that when you're reading Kant, it can be helpful to consider him within his correct context. That's between 1724 and 1804. Though that's not to detract from the influence or relevance of his ideas to philosophy. So that's Kant's moral philosophy. Hopefully you have a rough idea of his ideas. If you take a minute to read his Wikipedia page, this should reinforce these ideas, and you should understand his ideas after doing that. Thank you for watching.